Good afternoon, everyone. You're with Cassie, and it's True Crime Files that you're watching. Hope everyone's had a really good day so far. The sun's come out, and it's lovely. Just wait for this preview to start. Hiya, everyone. Hope you're all well. It's a bit warmer today. I haven't got the heating on, and yeah, I have got a t-shirt on underneath this blouse, but I've got a blouse on instead of jumper. Crazy. Right. Brian Entin. We all love Brian Entin, and he does a fantastic job of what he does. Sorry, I need to hear what I'm saying properly. Yeah, so he does a fantastic job of what he does. Um, so he's gone back home now, but he isn't off the case. He's still very much working the case. He's had 42 days out in Pima County. So I think he needs, to go back home, have some family time, and, just chill out and try and relax a little bit. So, but I'm going to bring you his interview. Please go onto his YouTube channel, like and subscribe. And if I could ask you to do the same with my channel, if you could like and subscribe as well, I'd really appreciate that. Right, so I'm going to make myself a bit smaller. That's not small enough. That's too big. That's better. Right, I'm going to play it and then enlarge the screen and then just check back that you're actually seeing him.
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. I really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. I appreciate all the support. It is day 44 in the search for Nancy Guthrie. You can tell my backdrop's a little different. I'm home now in Florida. Came home just to kind of recharge. See my dog? See? Hi, Scout. Oh, I missed her so much.
Oh,
so happy I'm home. But I'm obviously staying on the case. And there's been some developments. A new date that I have found that investigators are looking into. I just spoke to a neighbor who I hadn't spoken to before, so I'm going to get into that. Also, billboards. You guys have been sending me pictures. Billboards have now been going up in different parts of the country. And there's something else I forgot that's new today that I also got. Oh, yeah, something about Nancy's front door that someone in the neighborhood pointed out to me that I hadn't thought about before that could be important. I'm going to get into all of it in this episode. Brian Entin investigates. Hey guys, so as I said, I'm back home in Florida. I was in Arizona for 42 days, which I can't believe. I think it's the longest I've ever been away from home before. I mean, I travel every week for stories pretty much, but I don't think I've ever stayed 42 days in one place nonstop. The Idaho murders, I was there, I think for a month straight before I went home for a break. And then with Gabby Petito, I think it was the same, but Gabby Petito, where I was outside Brian Laundrie's was kind of easier because it was in Florida, so I could scoot home on the weekends sometimes. So I don't think I've ever been away from home for 42 days. But I'm not like some of you have messaged me like, oh, please don't give up on Nancy and don't stop covering the case constantly. And I'm not going to. I mean, I'm still going to be doing these episodes a lot. But I talked to my sources, like right now it just seemed like a good time to kind of just take a little recharge at home. I had some things to need to take care of. Obviously, I was a little homesick. It just felt like a good time to kind of recharge. And I'm going to obviously be going back to Arizona and staying on top of the case. And there's also some other cases and stories that I kind of put on the back burner that need my attention too. Some that you have also been following. So I'll be getting back to those too. But don't worry, like I'm not giving up on the Nancy Guthrie case. And I don't think it's going cold, by the way. Some of you have asked me that. I think it's taking some time, but I think there's going to be movement overall. But in this episode, a really interesting interview. This is a neighbor who I haven't interviewed before. Her name is Laura. She had some really interesting new information that I hadn't heard before. One is she started telling me about a new date that FBI agents are asking about and Pima County Sheriff's detectives. Remember, and you're going to hear her full interview in a second, but remember we knew about January 11th. We knew that they were keying in on January 11th and that they were asking neighbors for video from January 11th if they had seen anything suspicious on January 11th. So we knew that. But she told me that the detectives have also been asking her about January 24th, which is the first I've heard of this. January 24th would have been the Saturday before Nancy went missing. So 8 days before Nancy went missing. And again, you're going to hear her explain this, but she said specifically they were looking for video from that day. They actually helped her go through her cameras to see if she had anything suspicious on them from January 24th. It's interesting that that's on a weekend and that January 11th is also on a weekend. It's just kind of stood out to me. I don't know if they think that this suspect may have been someone who worked during the week that would come and case the neighborhood on the weekends. That I don't know, but I know that they have been interested in January 24th, which is new, and that they were also interested in January 11th. And again, you're going to hear her explain that in a second. The other interesting thing she brought up to me, which hasn't been discussed much, is that Nancy Guthrie had a security gate on her front door. If you look at this, you can see it. There's like a gate, and many of you guys probably have these. They're pretty common, but there was like a gate on the front door with a lock. And then you can see her, her normal door is behind it, but there's a security gate in the front. And Laura brought up an interesting point to me, and she just like knows the neighborhood. She has a security gate. She said, when those are locked, they're really, really difficult to get through. So she does not believe that the suspect who we saw on video was trying to get into Nancy's house through the front door, because she says if that security gate was locked, it wouldn't have worked out. It would have been very, very difficult. She believes that there may have been someone inside the house already that was about to take Nancy out, like an accomplice, and that he's at the front door waiting for them to open the door, waiting for that person to open the door so that he can assist in bringing Nancy out the front door, but that they didn't gain entry through the front door because of that security gate, she believes, which when you think about it, does make sense because those security gates, if it was locked, would be difficult to get through. And I hadn't thought about that series of events and that possibility, and the way she described it makes sense. And you'll hear her, again, explain that in detail in this interview. And one last thing, remember the pictures that we have from the front of the suspect, one of them we know is from around when Nancy went missing. And the other one, I am told, despite the sheriff sort of pushing back on this, but I have a good source on it, that they believe it's from a previous day. Whether that day is January 11th, whether that's January 24th, I don't know. But it is interesting to me, again, that they are keying in on January 11th and January 24th as two very specific dates that are also on weekends, by the way. Something else, many of you have been sending me pictures of the billboards that you're seeing now, the Find Nancy Guthrie billboards. Remember in the beginning, there hasn't been a press conference in so long, but when the FBI were part of that initial press conference, they said that there were going to be billboards like this. We weren't sure exactly where they were going to go. I know that there are some, just because you've messaged me, in the Houston area, outside Houston. I know that there's one in Southern California, these electronic billboards. So it is kind of interesting that they're not focused on just Arizona, but they seem to be popping up kind of all over the region and in other states. And I know that some of them were up this weekend because you guys saw them. So I want to get to my interview with Laura, because again, there's a lot that she talked about that I hadn't heard before. Also a really, really nice lady. It was nice meeting all these people in the neighborhood who I'm still in touch with constantly. So I wanted you guys to hear my conversation with Laura. What are your thoughts? I mean, it's now, been more than 40 days. Where's your mind at right now?
I think I've appreciated having a little bit of a break the last week or two, where it's Nancy's disappearance isn't in the media all the time, in part because it gives me a break, because I've been contacted a lot. And it lets me kind of get on with my life and things that I've kind of put on hold for a while. But just like how I felt after the death of my parents, distance and time from the event gives you a little bit of calm and peace, but it also, you realize it's already been a month, and I can't believe they've been gone for a month already. So it kind of both sides, feeling a bit of sorrow, along with feeling like personally it's given me a little more space with my neighbors and to kind of carry on with my life, but also in complete disbelief that we don't know where she is. And that is troubling to me. I understand it though, and I'm not faulting anybody, but does feel extra troubling. And I don't, I think about Nancy's daughters and son-in-law and grandchildren. How do they get on with their lives, and how do they get on and with this, knowing that their grandmother and mother are still missing?
Yeah, the sheriff said, he was asked, do you think this person can strike again? And he said, absolutely. which is not something I've heard him say before. But then he went on to say, but we believe it was targeted, but we don't really know. Are you nervous? Are people nervous?
I saw that quote today, and I saw that he was just really talking with the NBC reporters. And I think it's a little bit ambiguous. I think it's targeted, but we're not sure. I'm just not quite sure what that means. But it did cause, my hair to raise up a bit when he said that. And it did give me, some time to think about what that means. And it made me a little bit uncomfortable being, a nearby neighbor. I was thinking about that today on my way home from my appointment. Like, okay, what does that mean? And does that mean there could be somebody else lurking around? Somebody that's just looking for easy targets? He said it was targeted, but targeted based on what? What's the target? Was it, I don't want to go through and give anybody ideas, but what was the target? Is it a ransom? Was it an easy, vulnerable person? Somebody living alone? Somebody elderly? What's the target? So, and that's what kind of went through my mind today. What is the target exactly that they're talking about? It has to be one of the above. Somebody that, had some wealth, somebody who's vulnerable. Okay, 1, somebody's vulnerable 2, somebody who lives alone 3, someone with an easy to access home 4. I mean, you can go through 4 or 5 possible reasons she was targeted, including, having a famous daughter of some wealth.
Yeah. All right, guys, I want to introduce you to the sponsor of today's episode, Surfshark. Have you ever tried to watch a video, but it says that you can't watch it because of the country that you are in? Well, Surfshark will filter those out for you. What's all VPN? That is Surfshark.
On who her daughter.
That called me out. That's what I get from looking at my phone for the next
that was
case.
My sense. Just from the start, I didn't really consider any other possibilities. In part because I knew I knew she lived there. I knew who her daughter was. When I would walk by, I would always, I always noticed her house and whether she was there or not, and outside. And I always thought that was a potential, for me, the strongest possibility that maybe it was a crime of opportunity versus looking a little deeper at, other people in Tucson. This might just be someone that you became aware of that had a famous daughter. So that was always the reason I think somebody targeted, but who knows? I don't know the answer to that. And I don't like to speculate. And I always also assumed it was 2 people because of the person who was at the front door. And he was standing there, and I don't think he was the main person. I think he was the guy outside who was waiting for them to come out. Because if you have a gate like that, a security gate on the front door, you're not getting into that. You're never going to break into that security gate. I mean, I actually talked to a security guy about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he confirmed you're not breaking into those gates. So I think, and she has glass on both sides of the door, and I think he was trying to see in. So when he was standing there, he wasn't trying to figure out what to do. He was trying to look in to see what was going on. And also, because you have a security gate, the door, the wooden door, if that's open, it's hard to see inside if it's dark, because I have one of those. You can't really see if the door is open or not. So I think he was standing there waiting for someone to come out. And so I've always absolutely assumed there were at least 2 people, possibly 3. Being someone who has had to help my elderly mother at the time, who was only 120 pounds, try to get her up 3 or 4 stairs. It's hard. It's hard when someone is not wanting to be moved or is not able to move. So the thought that one person could move, a 140, 150 pound woman who's maybe not wanting to move is not, for me, reasonable to think that would just be one person.
Like one person can do that, yeah.
Yeah, no. Having lifted my parents, right?
Yeah, I think that's one reason you talk about your parents. I think that's one reason so many people are so invested in this story.
Yeah.
Because they think about their own parents.
Yeah.
And you're always worried about your parents when they get old and people taking advantage. You hear about all the scams today. You know what I mean? I think this resonates with people for that reason.
I think it does. And I think people, I am sure it's caused people to look at their own parents' living situation. I mean, my dad used to live right there in this, you can see, in that building attached to my house. And you know, safety, we moved him there. That was one of the reasons, for his own safety. And so you think about your parents all the time. And I'm sure you don't want hindsight to be 20/20, but unfortunately, that's when you start looking at things like many of us have. We started examining our own homes and situations. And what else? Are we secure? Is there something more we can do? Can I have a brighter camera? Do I need more cameras?
So are you going to make changes for yourself, you think?
Yeah, without disclosing.
Yeah, I understand. But it's actually making you do things.
Yeah,
I guess I would too.
Yeah.
You're so close to Nancy's house. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, most people, I think, are kind of reconsidering their own situations and looking for vulnerabilities. In fact, I know the sheriff's department, I think they have a corps, like a volunteer corps, that will do security inspections for your home and look for vulnerabilities. And so I became aware of that, and I've been sharing that information with people who I happen to talk to.
Has the FBI or detectives, have they come here at all?
Yeah. I think the sheriff's deputies were here twice. FBI was here probably 3 times, including last Friday. They, you know, of course, you get a knock at the front door. I'm like, And I can see, you know, I've got the big window there. I can see who's there, and I made him flash his badge before I opened the door, which I wouldn't have done before, to be honest. And so they came. They had more dates they wanted to look at, and we sat and looked through my cameras.
Oh, specific dates?
Yeah.
Do you mind saying what dates those were? I mean, I know January 11th has been a big one with the other name. Did that one come up?
Yeah, we went back through, and I don't know if there was more to why they asked, because I've already gone through my cameras, and really there was nothing on there but wildlife. And the other date was the 24th.
The 24th of January, they were interested in.
Mm-hmm.
Do your cameras face like all over the sides of the house, or what?
I'd rather not say exactly where they face.
Yeah, I understand.
But the one that did, you know, record a series around that date were just picking up animals.
Animals,
Yeah.
Okay. But they had specific dates they were interested in.
Yeah.
Did they seem, anything else they asked you that sort of stood out?
No, I think they just wanted to, maybe it was a different group of people, I'm not sure. I mean, it wasn't the same guys who came, but they just basically asked the same questions that I'd been asked before. We spent about maybe 25 minutes together. And that was it. We went through. I think in some part, they want to make sure that people understand how to look through their cameras, and they're looking, and of course I do.
Yeah.
It's just I don't really have anything to show them, unfortunately. There's nothing on there. But I think in part they wanted to make sure that people, you know, were accurately looking through the footage.
Yeah.
And I think in some cases I do know of some people that just turned over their footage and said, you know, you can, here's all these dates, please take a look. Mine aren't really worth doing that because there's not much on there.
Has there been anything that stood out to you since you lived here for more than a decade? Like anything strange that's ever happened? Well, I'll ask you that first.
One time I had some friends who were here. I was out, they were staying here, and they told me, hey, just let you know, there were some people that walked up to the front of your house and they were taking a bunch of pictures of your house from the front. And I was just, you know, I didn't hire anybody to do any work, and I didn't give any permission to take pictures of the front of my house. And if you can see, you can't see the front of my house from the street.
Right.
You have to walk up my driveway. And so that was alarming. And I thought about that the other day, but this was 3 or 4 years ago. I'm just going to assume that they liked the look of my
Yeah,
house.
well, you do have a very nice house. So.
I just want to assume that maybe they liked the way it looked, but that was a little uncomfortable.
Yeah,
because I'd never seen that before.
Well, and like you said, your house is like you really have to come up to it.
Yeah.
It's not anywhere near the road. One thing I've heard a lot from neighbors is, and even from some of my sources, is like there's a thought that one possibility is the person who did this could be close by, just because they haven't been able to track the cell phone from what we know from outside. You know what I mean? Like,
that's weird to me. I don't. And they did actually check. Actually, one more question that they did ask me last Friday is whether my internet went down that night. And I said if it did, I was asleep, and it probably came up the next day. And plus, I have a new internet service from that time, 2 weeks ago. I had to change internet service. So, but I looked back on my Xfinity account to see if it cut out, but I didn't find anything.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, that's, it's entirely possible, but I kind of know who's in these, and they're all like me, they're all meaning, they're all kind of normal people.
Yeah.
I did, notify the, like day 1 or 2 or 3, notified I got a call with, I think it was a special agent, I think it was FBI, that there was a recent turnover, and there's not that many rentals around here, but there was a rental nearby, and whoever lived there had moved out within a few days of this happening. They had moved out a few days before because the cars were gone. So I just became, see something, say something. So I thought it's probably nothing, but
Definitely.
Right.
Many people need to say that on.
I'm going to talk to them and just let them know that there was somebody living there and they're not there anymore. And so I confirmed with a couple of the neighbors, did in fact you see those cars aren't there? He said, yeah, they just moved out.
Yeah.
And these neighbors that I spoke with didn't have any footage of it because they're stopped at their driveway.
Well, that's the thing people don't get is the footage here. People's houses are set back.
Yeah.
It's not like footage from the front door is going to get people out on the street or,
Well, and I think in neighborhoods where it's just a regular neighborhood, houses are closer together and they're not set back behind, greenery, trees, shrubs. It wouldn't be that out of ordinary to catch cars passing by. I know in California, my house did. Every time I got in my car in the driveway, my neighbor's lights would go on from across the street.
Yeah.
I didn't like it, but I realized it's probably a good thing,
right.
that anytime there's motion in my driveway, his cameras pick up my every movement. So so this is just not the kind of neighborhood where there are those kind of people. I pretty much know in all those houses, I know who lives in all those houses around the corner. I'm not going to stay the street, but around the corner. Yeah. I know her next door neighbor. I know the people up the cul-de-sac. I know who everybody is. So it's, they're kind of all.
What's the mood among the neighbors? I mean, you seem pretty calm.
It varies. I mean, I'm always pretty calm, because the wheels just start spinning, and I want to go and find out what's going on. I'm not the person who goes and tries to pretend like it's not happening, or I want to know what's going on. And I went out and talked to neighbors. I checked on some of my older neighbors to make sure they were okay within days of that happening, because I hadn't seen my one neighbor walking his dog, and I kept going to his house to see if he was there. So that's, I kind of, you see there's quite a few older folks in the neighborhood, and I like to consider I'm not one of the oldest in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like I have the bandwidth to go and check on a couple of neighbors. And,
that's good.
And like the people right across on the cul-de-sac, So I think people have different, there are people who don't want to they try to stay as far away from this as possible. They know what's going on, but they don't want to obviously talk to reporters. And I understand that for sure. They don't want to, but everybody's still, I talked to some neighbors a couple of days ago, and everybody's still pretty broken up about it.
Yeah, most of the neighbors.
Some people are still pretty traumatized.
I think so.
The ones who are more of her peers have known her for a long time.
And most of the neighbors have been like, "Oh, we're happy it's still on the news.
Yeah.
You guys should stick around. Like, we want them to find Nancy." There's been a few who have said, "Get out of here. It's time. You're vultures." It's been kind of a mix. But most people, I think, want it to stay kind of top of mind in some ways.
Yeah, I probably would put myself in that group because, and it's helpful to the Guthries. The more it stays in the news, top of mind, the more people, the chips are probably slowing down, right? And the more it stays in the news, the more people say, "Oh, that's right. What is it? Whatever happened with that case?" So it keeps it top of mind, and I'm sure that it's helpful to law enforcement to keep it out there versus people forgetting about it. I think for me personally, I don't mind it, but then again, I don't live right next door.
Right. Yeah. I won't say where you are, but you're close.
I'm close.
Yeah.
Our backyards.
Yeah.
But I know that there was somebody poking around in my neighbor's backyard at 3 a.m. last week. And
what?
He wasn't like one of you kind of media guys.
Yeah.
He's a new media guy, like a YouTube media.
In the night, you said?
YouTube guy. 3 a.m.
They shouldn't be doing that.
She happened to be out with her dogs, letting her dogs out.
She shouldn't be doing that.
What are you doing?
On her property?
Well, her property, the neighbor's property comes up to her wall, and they were on the other side. So it was technically her neighbor, but she was out in her yard. It'd like seeing somebody on the other side of my wall there. And she went and talked to him. He's like, you can't be there. You're trespassing on somebody's property. And
no, it's even rude when they don't do it also.
Yeah.
Some people have guns, and some people are more than happy to,
Also in the middle of the night like that.
3 a.m.
Yeah.
And he came
That's
up and talked to
crazy.
her, but that's still not okay.
Yeah, that's really scary.
Yeah. So I think people see all this open space, and I think I'm going to find her. I'm going to claim that money, and I want to be the one to find her. And so I'm going to step over there because there's no houses and there's all this open land, but it's actually somebody's property. You could see back here, there's 2 or 3 acres back here, and it belongs to someone, right? So that's the sort of thing people don't like.
Yeah, that's
they don't like
understandable.
people to step over the line.
Yeah,
that is so bad.
And for the most part, media, people like yourself, understand. You have to. To get information, you have to be able to be assertive, and you have to be able to go up to people, and you have to, and that's for the most part, people understand that, and they'll say yes or no, I don't want to talk, or I do want to talk. But it's these other people that aren't media trained. They don't know what the rules are, the laws are, that, I think for some people has been a nuisance.
Have you had any frustrations with law enforcement? I mean, we've heard so much about the sheriff since we got here.
No, my first thought was hearing him talk. It was a little cringeworthy, because I thought, oh man, that was not probably the best thing to say. But I can't say that he's not doing his job, because I don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Maybe he's not as well media trained. I don't know. But so I can't criticize what he's doing, because I don't know what's happening. And that's okay. We should not know everything that's happening. It's really, if it in any way impacts the investigation, if it negatively, impacts the investigation, or it's giving too much information, just because people want to know doesn't mean they should. So I don't know which way. I don't know if he's doing a good job or bad job. I just know that it's not necessarily my business. And if I don't like it, then there's the next election,
Right.
But I think it's just he caught off guard with the media. And I understand that there was some things going on there too with his personal life. So
anything else that you think is important?
No, other than that
hasn't been reported or that people, should know?
No, I just hope that people keep thinking about this case. I hope that people will continue to keep especially people in Southern Arizona, keep their eyes open. I can tell you, every time I go out in public, I am looking it's like I've got Google glasses on and I'm putting my little AI on faces to see who's, because I feel like I know what this person looks like. As soon as we saw the image, I said, this is how tall he is. This is how much he weighs. He's got bow legs. He's got lady hips. I know exactly what I'm, like, okay, I know who this person, I don't know him, but I know what this person looks like. And I think a lot of people kind of figured out, some people thought it was a woman. I don't think so. And so, keep your eyes open. Of the eyes. And probably nothing that the sheriff hasn't already said to people. But I personally am always, kind of scanning when I go out, to be honest. At some point it will probably stop. I'll start forgetting. But for now.
Probably smart to do that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And, anybody walking up my driveway is going to, I'll probably put up signs, no trespassing signs myself, so that I don't have to get into a situation where, it's a terrible thing. Because at one point in our, history over the 30 years, it'd be fine for somebody to come to your front door. And they still do here, believe it or not. I have people coming trying to sell me things to my front door.
Well, I was kind of nervous coming to your front door just because it's a walk up and I'm like, gosh, I feel like people are on edge here. So for a guy to walk up, I'm just like, Oh,
I knew who you were though. But no, it's, my dogs always tell me when somebody's coming up the driveway.
Yeah.
So
you have big dogs too. So
yeah. And I knew, I recognized you. But it's, you can see in my house and I can see who's coming up the driveway from over that corner and that corner. So I'm not overly worried, but I am probably a little bit more aware, because the person coming to your house, it says they're trying to sell you their truckload of asphalt, or they see that I could use a yard service, or I could use a new roof. Maybe that's not really what they're selling.
Yeah.
Maybe they just want to come up to the door and see who's here.
A lot of people have brought up like contractors. I guess that's a thing here, where there's just kind of, I hate to say shady contractors, but some people have told me that, like, there's people coming around, let me clean your windows, let me look at your roof, Well, there's a lot you can see. You probably heard some of it going on. Just right near her house, there was a new roof. Somebody got a new roof the last 2 days in the cul-de-sac over there. He moved to San Diego. He was planning on it already. So there were people there, and I was watching, because I could see from my back of my house who was up there. Over there is construction. There's always construction. Somebody's doing something to their house. They're doing an addition or doing a new roof or something, remodeling. And so there's people around. And so I had said that previously to someone, that at any given point, there are a lot of vehicles around. Most of the time you see what the name of the construction company is.
Oh, do go.
But there are a lot of them. And I can tell, when I was standing on her street talking to a neighbor a couple weeks ago about something else, I could tell there were cars driving by, and I was just talking to her. I said, look, they don't live here. They don't live here. They don't live. I can tell who lives here, because you see them around. And they have Arizona plates usually when they live here.
He says, play with me, Mom.
Plates from a rental car, rental company. So when trucks come around, to be honest, now I'm probably if there's unmarked vehicles, trucks, vans, trucks, service vehicles, I'm going to be looking a little bit harder, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I hate that I have to do that, but I just,
I'll give you
for
poor
now,
Mummy.
Feel compelled to be looking over our shoulders a little bit more. Especially since the sheriff said it's targeted, we think, and everybody should be on alert.
He says,
right?
Mom,
I
want to play.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for talking to me. Appreciate it. Thank you. Really appreciate Laura for taking the.
So what do you all think of that one then, eh? Let's remove him. So what do you think on that? I mean, if I lived there, I definitely would be on high alert all the time and wary of anyone walking up my drive. You can hardly see me with this green screen. I must stop moving. So I would feel unsettled. And like she said a couple of weeks ago, or whenever it was, someone was in the neighbour's back garden near her wall at 3 o'clock in the morning. That's not on. Even if you're a YouTuber, broadcaster, or whatever. You don't do that at that time of day, and if you step on land, you need to go to the nearest house and say, is this your land or is it free land? And that, just find out. If they say it's their land, then you could say, could I have permission to just walk around on your land? I won't disturb anything. I won't, damage anything. And then I'm sure they'd be fine with that. But people need to have manners. Most people are sleeping at 3:00 in the morning. So what those people were doing at 3:00 in the morning, that's putting suspicion on them. Nanos could say, right, you're doing it at 3:00 in the morning. Let's have you in for questioning. So you never know, do you? But right. So thank you for listening to that with me. I'd only heard 5 minutes of it before I started recording it. So then that's why I carried on listening to it, because I hadn't heard all of it before I started doing the recording. So, right. And if you could like and subscribe to my channel, that would help me out great deal. And I'll see you on the next one.